All right, stand by. Roll sound.
Speed.
Roll camera.
Speeding.
Slate.
Scene 1, take 1, mark.
And action. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Burnie's Applebox, Friday at 2 o'clock. And we got a great show today. Longtime friend of mine, Kris Hritz. How you doing,
Craig
buddy?
Burnie Burns.
Awesome.
Good to be on your show. Hey, before we
Thank
get
you.
started, I wanted to hold your apple box.
Oh yeah. Be careful with that.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money. Yeah,
Looks really nice. I like what you did here.
Thank you. I like that. Maybe that's my
Welcome
new,
to Burnie's Applebox.
Yeah, maybe that's my new
Then a
profile
fist bump.
picture. I don't know. It could be. There you go. All right. Very good. Very good. Kris, thanks for stopping by today. I know you're a busy guy all the time. I've tried to get you on the show a couple times, but you're on top of it all the time. And you're somebody, and Kris and I are very good friends. Kris and I have been longtime friends. We started out as PAs together, even though you see there's a little bit of an age difference here. I was 40, Kris was 20, but by God, we were the two best PAs on that set, I'll tell you that.
We were moving, what, 13K lights over sand?
Well, if you recall, I believe we had 4x8 sheets of plywood.
Yep.
And we were hopscotching those forward so the jib could get out there. And I think we were taking the 13Ks, or excuse me, they were 12Ks.
Okay.
Yeah, 12Ks, and hoisting those through the sand ourselves to get up and then put it on the crankavator and make it and get it up.
And I didn't even know what a 12K was then. It was just a big light.
Yeah.
And I remember it got rained out, and the famed Suzuki truck of yours, it's in your book.
Yes.
You had that then.
Yes, I did. I did. My Suzuki Sidekick made $50 that day, and it was one of my first equipment rentals, believe it or not.
Towing the Western. You were pulling the Western.
I was towing
we
the
were wrapping
Western.
up. Well, everybody else was hiding in the 40-foot trailer when it was raining.
That's right.
Anyway, that was a good time.
Yeah, and I remember, I think that when everybody's hiding in there, I remember Dan Cosman was on that too. Somehow Dan and I got caught in the storm. And we were doing everything that, everybody else was supposed to be doing. The grips were supposed to be securing their stuff. Electric. Everybody ran for the trailer where there were 10 models in, which is a no-brainer there too. But Dan and I were left out. And I remember I saw this pop-up was going to go fly away. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I jumped on it and grabbed it. And Dan jumped on it and grabbed it because it was getting away from me. So if either one of us would have let go, right? The other person, it would have been flying around and flying all over him. So we were sitting there, and I'll remember that. What are we gonna do?
What do you do next?
I don't know.
That's awesome.
And somebody came out, it's probably you, came out and saved us and threw a bag on it or came out.
We end up putting the whole set together, I know that much.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So long time we've known each other, and our paths from that point, we've stayed friends. We knew each other, and I worked for you. I think you hired me on some projects early on. But we went two different ways in the industry. I went more for the equipment side of it, the lighting side of it, more in the electric department. You pursued a production company, which I was always envious of, too, by the way. And I do know your knowledge base, and it's very impressive. And that, I think, is a very big payoff. I have a knowledge base, too, but it's just very set-oriented. You have more of, I think, a wider wing spread over the industry and what you do and what you're doing now, which we'll get into in a minute. What prompted you to go the direction of a production company? Was it something you always wanted to do?
It's a great question. I didn't necessarily have my mind set on a production company. I knew that I wanted to direct, but I never said I wanted to be a director. I just saw that I gravitated towards the camera because that's where it seemed like the action was. And then I realized that a lot of times there was never a strong voice on set. Mm-hmm. And so naturally I was like, well, let's move this along, people. Let's do this. Let's do this. How do we facilitate?
Yes.
But I was cautious because when I started out, you don't just open your mouth right away. You got to learn first.
Mouth shut, ears open.
Yeah, as
That's
you always
my
tell.
motto. Yeah, yeah.
So, for me, I went born and raised Southern California. I'm like
Yeah.
the kid from Iowa that never left.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. Went to school, Orange Coast College, then on to Long Beach State.
Sure.
And from there, I realized that to go to the film level that I wanted to, I'd have to move to LA, and I just wasn't ready to do that.
Right.
So I started doing corporate industrial video. I had a college friend that worked for Toyota at the Video Production Center, and I got in there.
That's a
and
pretty good end.
It was a great in.
Yeah.
Most people do it as an intern. I went in and started getting paid right
That's
away.
awesome.
And I started doing every position on set. I did sound, I did grip, I did electric on short films. Figured
Okay.
out real fast I didn't want to carry cable.
Yeah.
And then always wanted to get towards camera, so I kept going back to camera again. So then I've been a cameraman, then I was a producer, an AD, and then ultimately directing and having my own production company.
Wow.
So I've always gravitated towards the tech side, so I think that's why camera's always been excited to me.
Right.
But I wanted to understand the whole process and to be able to do every job.
And you are very good at tech. I know that because any problem I usually have with live streaming or anything like that, and we'll get into what you're doing now, which will be explanatory on this, but I always call you. You're a guy I always hit up. I hit up Gary Hyman too, but you're the one who knows about the intricacies. And here's what I love about it when I call you. You give me the answer, and then you give me two other options. Like, if this is doing this, it could be caused by that, but not very likely. And before you do that, check this, because it could be just that simple. That's what I love. You have a very troubleshooting mind, and it's helped me out many times.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So back in the day, let's call it, you know what I mean, when we had it so good,
Like,
we never...
what, 10 years ago?
10 years wasn't bad.
No.
Listen, it's 2017. 10 years ago in 2007,
That was the pinnacle.
I had to quit going out gaffing because I was 10 hours a day on the phone taking orders for jobs.
I remember that when I
was
would call
doing-
you. I tried to book you for something, you weren't available.
Oh, it was impossible. I could not physically go out. When I quit, the last job that I went out on before I decided to definitely cut it off was, I remember I was on the phone 5 hours out of the 10 hours that day. And it was all doing business. It was all about jobs. It was about putting out fires and doing that,
Yeah.
So all of those things, added up, and I just said, I can't go out anymore.
Well, and that point of your life is part of what you've always talked about. It's that pinnacle of when you transition from being the operator to the owner.
Yes.
And you now
Yes.
have trucks and guys, or you've got an office with people and staff.
Right.
So it's no longer Kris the shooter editor. It was Kris the director producer with an editor.
Right.
And learning that skill was difficult. Moving on and letting go of those reins. And I know guys in the business that can't let go.
Oh.
But as
you hit the nail on the head right there. That is instrumental that you can have the self-discipline to, first of all, get out of your comfort zone because that's what you're doing. You keep running back to what you know. You know what I mean? Leaving that there, letting other people handle it, manage them, but don't micromanage them,
Right.
obviously. And moving on and building a network and letting people take care of those departments. It sounds simple, but it is very difficult to actually do.
super hard.
Yeah, very difficult. And allocating the funds for them too, because now it's not just you and your organization that needs to make money. There's another 5 people in your organization that need to support a family or bring home the bacon and
Yep.
all that. So yeah, it's a very, very difficult thing. So tell me, because I know in that time, 2007, I know you were on fire. You had some big clients. I think Verizon was one, and I know several others. How did you manage that growth from going from just a guy who was sort of doing spec jobs? Because I remember you telling some stories. Just talk to that.
Yeah, managing the growth, I was lucky. I had a business partner. And so a good friend of mine who was in production, I got him and his wife to move back from Northern California. And I said, I'll never forget the day. I had probably $100,000 in receivables coming in. I had 3 more jobs that I had to do. And I didn't even have the time to send the invoices.
Wow.
And so I, like you, was on the phone 8 hours a day when I was still trying to shoot, still trying to edit, still trying to, and I realized, this is going somewhere.
Yeah.
So I remember I flew up and visited my friend Josh, a good friend, still my business partner and good friend at this time.
Absolutely.
And said, hey, you need to come down here and help me run this.
Yeah.
Because he'd worked for an ad agency. He had skills in terms of billing and invoicing and structure of a business. And that's how we turned it from $100,000 to over $1.5 million a year that we were doing.
Incredible.
You know, we had 3 edit bays, we had wired offices. I mean, it's the same story. You could talk to anybody in the business that had any decent success.
Yeah. And back in those days, I mean, it was on fire, probably falsely so. You know what I mean? We were in an overheated economy, obviously. There was more money than common sense at that point.
Right.
You know what I mean? Almost, you know, the dishwasher at the restaurant I went to, he was buying a home.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or he or she. It was too much money, too hot out there. Of course, did I think about that? Did I recognize it? Of course not.
Right.
Just bring it on.
Right.
You know? And really for me, and I think this is somewhat true for you, you almost didn't have to be a real business person.
Right.
There was enough money coming
gosh,
in, you could buy your way out of any problem on the other side.
Well, and we were all tradesmen. We were all tradesmen doing our trade and doing it well. And then those that decided to move it up a little bit did, and were able to exploit on it, just like you built your empire.
Yeah, yeah. One step at a time. One step at a time. And I remember you telling me, for me in my business, that you know, and I do apologize. People think, you know, that I'm going on about this period of time, but it is crucial, and I think it's very relevant to where we're at now, to be honest with you, on the change in our industry.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because we got the double whammy in our industry, and it much more affected you than it did me. As a lighting guy, things didn't change. When there was a loss of production, it changed very greatly for me, obviously. You know, it was down. But for you, I think, and people in your position, you were going against several things. One is the advent of YouTube. You know, that was in 2007 we're referring to, but that was just 2 years before. Now, at that time in 2007, people were really just starting to experiment with commercial posts on YouTube. You know what I mean? Trying to promote things, trying to do things. And all of a sudden, while it wasn't verbalized there, then more and more people were going that way, and the dollars started drifting out. In other words, hey, I just did it with my phone and it works on YouTube. What's the problem?
Right.
Right? You know what I mean?
Video got demystified.
Yes.
Just like what PowerPoint used to be to us, like I don't know how to run a PowerPoint or change it.
Yeah.
That was the same thing about people felt about video, but now it's commonplace. Everybody shoots 4K on their phone. Everybody streams from their phone. So, and I think the 5D was the tipping point from a revolutionary
Completely
change.
agreed.
And it put the production in hand. I like to say a couple things in terms of what I always like to say is it really changed from the fact that ad agencies, projects they wouldn't touch, when that all changed, they started sucking up and doing, which then eroded the middle class of video.
Yes.
So that 60 to 1,000 to 100,000 price point just went right over to the agencies.
Yeah.
And so as independent producers that were working for corporations, we lost that. And so all of a sudden the magic number seemed like it was 10 grand. And that was what you could charge for something.
And that's about right.
And then, you know, in your business, that means I had 2 grand for you, maybe, if you're lucky.
You didn't have 10 grand. You did not have 2 grand for me. I can assure you of that.
Nice.
I can assure you of that. It was like, Burnie, we need 3 C-stands, 2 sandbags, and
we'll come pick it up.
Yeah, we'll pick it up. 2 flags. Yeah, we'll come pick it up.
Well,
but no, same thing. Just go on. You know, I think that at the time where that happened, everybody sort of looked at it first, the downturn in the economy.
Right.
And when that hit, which for me, and I got a day for you, November 7th, 2008, I went into a meeting and I thought, man, my phone is going to be totally blowing up by the time because I had to turn it off, and I go, I'm going to be in here 3 hours. I'm going to have so much to do afterwards. I got out, turned my phone on, and I thought it was broke.
Not one message?
Not one message,
Wow.
not one email.
Wow.
And the next day it was the same thing. And of course, at the time I'm thinking, oh, this is great. This is great. Yeah, I could do this forever. But little did I know I had to do it forever at that point.
Well, and those are turning points in life. I mean,
That's right.
You have to evolve, and you have to evolve quickly, and even quicker nowadays.
Yes.
And you can't just rely on one skill set. Otherwise, you'll get passed by.
Yes. So true, right there, dude. We in those days could rely on just doing one thing, and you were that practitioner. You know, you weren't the blacksmith that made the harnesses and the chain. You just did horses.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that changed rapidly.
Oh, very quickly. And I remember that we downsized, and I started putting all the hats back on that I did when we first started out.
Right.
And to evolve. But the idea of a production company has changed. It used to be a staff of 3 or 4 edit bays, because edit bays were so expensive.
Right.
And clients would come to your edit bay.
Right.
I remember near the end of the change, I'd have a client come in once a year, once every few months, maybe, and then at the end of that, never.
Never come in.
So clients don't come in anymore. I mean, at the high level they do, but if we're talking the corporate video that we live and thrive in here in Orange County,
Right.
that completely changed. So a production company now is a guy with a 5D, some lenses, his Movi, and his iMac home editing system.
The Predator.
Yeah.
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 Producer,
Completely.
editor. Yeah. You know, on that point too, when you're doing that, going from that, because I know it didn't change for you right away. You had some good clients that were in the pipeline, I think, that sort of got you through.
I would like to say I was a lucky one.
Yeah,
I was one of the luckier ones.
You were very fortunate in that. But as you started dwindling out, and of course you're hearing the horror stories around you, you know the terrain has changed.
Right.
You know what I mean? How was that for you transitioning? I mean, I know you hit some rough patches in there, but tell me about that transition points. What was your realization, and what did you do about it?
You know, it's funny. That was one of the points that brought you and I back together.
It was.
Because I was at a point where I had shooting skills, and I said, I'm going to go back and start shooting. And I bought a C100 lens package and started calling my friends and said, hey, I'm back shooting again. I've got this camera package. If you need some help, let me know. Yeah. And well, ironically, it's hard to go back to doing that. So I did some of it, and I was fine and doing good, but realized that my skill set was somewhere else, and I needed to move on, like you said. Yeah. And during that transition period, I was always interested in streaming, webcasting, getting it online.
Right.
I saw a big opportunity there, and fortunately, one of my good friends, Bill Peters from high school, he had worked for a streaming company and brought me on early, and I was doing the front end video. So I was doing the cameras, the lighting, the cables, and handing the cable over to them to plug into the computer to stream. Right. And slowly, I did more and more of those and started wanting to learn more about the streaming side and coding.
Right. Yeah, you were an early adopter into that.
I was lucky because I worked with guys that worked for big companies that put lots of money. And that was at the end of the tech bubble, because everybody was putting all kinds of money like, this is going to happen. And the horsepower wasn't there. I mean, there were still issues with it. People were doing it, but it just wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah. You know, and let's spend a minute talking about the tech bubble, because that was a very interesting time also. Sure. In that 2007 range, that year, around the last half of the year, it's hard to kind of remember this because it was so short, but Silicon Valley and Hollywood were really, I mean, they were almost walking down the aisle.
We made a lot of money then.
Yeah. There were things that they were visualizing and talking about that are only today coming true. Yeah. Because you're right, the bandwidth was not there yet. Right. All of the money was, all of the creative was, but still we had not made that.
Well, that was at that tipping point where all the companies felt like they needed, 3 full-size camera packages, a full studio, full lighting to put something on the screen this big. Right. And so they did it was still the old production way. Right. And so that was where we thrived until they started realizing it didn't matter because of YouTube.
That changed
one of the things you've always said is content media is disposable.
Yes,
it's more.
We're in a disposable media society.
And I remember that too, because when we shot, we would keep things forever and ever and ever.
Oh my
and then
God,
now it's like we shoot something and it's not relevant any longer.
No, it's irrelevant very quickly. You know, it just doesn't matter. You know, so it is the very same thing. And I remember too in the day, and I think because you touched on this earlier, but editing was the thing that floated all boats, because that was such a huge, big part of that ticket. I remember people hiring my 3-ton and a crew of 4, and I go, do you need, I'll give you an estimate. Don't even worry about it. We got it covered. It's covered through editing.
No, that was what you asked about a production company. That was what I always say. I go, God, I love shooting. And he goes, why? Because that means we're going to be editing.
Yeah.
Shooting means we're going to be editing.
Right.
So that was, I love that.
Right.
Absolutely love that.
Well, this is a good spot. Let's just go to a commercial break, and we're going to come right back with Kris Hritz. Hi, I'm Burnie. I own Burnie's Grip and Lighting, San Diego Grip and Lighting, and Los Angeles Grip and Lighting. You know, we pride ourselves on not only renting you the best equipment, but also giving you the best crews. And one of our core values here at Burnie's Grip and Lighting is that we give you the highest production value in the world. And remember, people used to say national, local. No, we present world-class production value on every set. We also know budgets are very tight these days, and you've got 10 hours to get what you need in the can. We move ahead, we move fast, and we know what you need. When you rent from Burnie's Grip and Lighting, you have a partner on your production for that day that is making sure you are well taken care of. So anytime you're in Southern California, give us a call at 714-609-3545, and we'll take very good care of you. See you on set. Hey everybody, welcome back. We're here with Mr. Kris Hritz, and he's very powerful.
Anyway,
yeah.
I love that graphic.
Yeah, that, you know what? That thing cost, I don't know, almost $10.
Oh, almost.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
So we were talking about your going into the production company,
Yep.
and how that was, and now we were talking about it's almost come full circle
Yep.
back, right? You're back to sort of more stability, sort of more. But tell me about those years in there where it became slack. I mean, when you were in it, and I'm specifically talking about this, clients that you've had a relationship with before, numbers that you had put out there before, how were they reacting to that? Was that something that they just like would look and laugh, or was it just no call at all? Were they going to other people?
Well, what it was they realized they didn't need to buy one video for 100,000. They could buy 10
Right.
for 10,000.
Yes.
And get more product, if you will,
Right.
out of the deal. You know, you said something that was interesting, and this is part of the evolution conversation we're having. I always like to say, don't ever say I don't care. You just say it doesn't matter. There's things that don't matter. I always like to say I care. I always care. But there's times when you just gotta say it doesn't matter. And that mentality is what is now the norm. It's you get on set and you set up the camera, you set up the lights, and it's like, whereas we would spend hours cutting and shaping, and they'll be like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter to the viewers.
You're right. And it's not that type of piece.
Yeah.
This piece is made to last a week, even though people may watch it for 10 years,
Right.
stumble upon it or whatever. It's really only talking about right now, and you'll leave it up or take it down as needed.
Well, and to answer the question you asked, what happened was we would spend $60,000 on a training video for a product that was launching, and now they'll just do it in-house with a couple guys and put it on the website and be done.
Yeah.
So that evolution of pricing, that again, the middle class of video evaporated.
Yeah.
And it was 10,000 and below, or it was 60, 100,000, and it was an agency job.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when we started out, agencies wouldn't touch anything under
under
200,000.
oh,
150,000.
absolutely.
So like 100,000, we don't even have time for that.
Around here, too, it was very much like that. You know, there were the people who were starting out on a little lower level and stuff. They would jump on those. They would take the low-hanging fruit, if you will. But yeah, I remember many agencies going, oh, nothing under 300,000 or 350,000, and that was quite common. I
So
mean,
at the end
wasn't
of the
even
period
big
we were
ones.
talking about, when things were drying up, to me the magic number was 10 grand. It was like they wouldn't have to get a manager to sign off on it. They could still do the video, and that's all they had. So how do you run a production company with 3 people and 4 edit bays and on staff? You can't.
You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ergo, the production company became a guy in his house with a camera and an edit system, and he could cover his mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And usually their wife worked for a company that had health benefits.
Yes. Yes. You know what? I didn't get it at first, but I understand the value of the wife having a steady job in our
with
industry
benefits.
now. With benefits. With benefits. Every successful guy that I know has had that formula, except for you and I.
Right.
I mean, my wife's an artist, so she does work. She makes some money.
Yep.
But
And my wife and I, stay-at-home mom, raising the kids.
Exactly. And those are the things that I think as a couple you negotiate.
Sure.
You understand your values, and that's how it works. But it became very tough to make that living and going out, because at $10,000, you know, when you start shaving that down, and you know, you and I have had many conversations based on pricing.
Yep.
You know, this is one thing. Kris and I had, you know, a little. I don't know. We had a production company. We kind of
collaborated.
We collaborated
for like a good year and a half.
along with Bill Wiles and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And we had many conversations that is the toughest thing in the world. You know, at $10,000, how do you bid it and make money? And I'm of the school, if you can't make money, don't even waste your time bidding it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That $10,000, certainly you could use this month. I get all that.
Right.
But if you're going to go in it and spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, get next to nothing, and walk away with a client that only spends $10,000, I don't think you've gained much. But each case is different. Each case is different. You know.
Yeah.
Tell me how you navigated that.
You know what was interesting is that at a lower price point, you started giving away all your time for free.
Yeah.
All the client services, the client handling. And the clients in Orange County were savvy and wanted a boutique agency experience, so they wanted you on call, practically on staff.
Right.
So you just gave that time away. You know,
Yeah.
you packaged it up in the shoot. In terms of managing that, you know,
I mean, you've got to have a lot more clients now at $10,000 to make up for the month that you're losing when you had bigger jobs, right? You've got to have five things on hold. I mean, you got to make 50 grand a month.
If you're supporting
Really,
the company, and that's
supporting the
where the
company,
model
yeah.
changed. That's
Yeah.
where the model changed. Like I said, the production company now is a guy at home with his camera
Right.
and his edit system, and would do that video in 2 a month, and you're covered. You're
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
You know, you can weather that.
You know, one thing that really struck me during that time too, and this was just at the beginning of the transition, I'd say early 2009, how quickly the larger size production companies in Orange County died.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it was within months.
Yeah.
I don't even think anybody lasted really of the, what I would call big size, probably that's just from my point of view.
Sure.
You know, somebody would say 20 employees,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And they had edit bays, and they were working multiple clients that were coming with things on a very regular basis. I remember some of those guys were just, you know, I'd call them up looking for work.
Yeah.
I go, oh, we're literally cleaning out the building right
Yeah.
now.
And that's happening, and it worked its way up to L.A., Hollywood.
Oh, yeah,
in
all
the
over.
entertainment industry.
All over.
It all changed.
Yeah.
You know, TV shows were starting to shoot on the 5D. They
Yeah.
were starting to shoot 24p on
Right,
5D, and it was
right.
like, oh, we're going to experiment with this. Oh, we're going to do this now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We experimented this season.
Yeah.
Now we're doing it next
Yeah.
season. You know, and they were taking those things and just going with it. And I have to say that the technology and distribution, which was YouTube, and then every other platform followed suit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And certainly the 5D, which packaged it entirely different now.
Yep.
With better dynamic range, with all of the pluses that go along with technological change,
Yep.
and brought it down in a price point that was unbelievably low for our industry. You know,
Change it completely.
just totally ravaged it, and so many people got out of the business at that time. you
Well,
know?
it also brought it back to the cameraman and the camera now were one. You
Yes.
didn't just rent a camera package and hire camera ops. You would get a camera guy with his own camera because the finickiness of the camera, the rig, the
Right.
setup, and that was something that was interesting and had to get used to real quick.
Yes,
And
yes.
you know, from a producing standpoint, it was great. I didn't have to worry about it. It's
Yeah.
like get a guy with his camera and he'll
Yeah,
do it.
right.
But then all of a sudden now the cameraman is the DP and the cameraman is the
Yeah.
sound man and
Yeah.
the cameraman is the DIT. He's doing it all.
Yeah.
So again, it democratized the whole thing and brought it down to
And at that same time, the reason that you had those individuals doing those roles
Yeah.
was a safety factor.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so that nobody was going to drop the ball on that $75,000 project.
Right.
You know, now the project's $10,000. We'll roll the dice a little bit, or I know this
Exactly.
guy can fix it in post.
well,
you
and that
know?
goes back to my comment that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think just to end the conversation about what we're talking about with the change, I remember when it swung, the pendulum swung back to you were now going out with your truck by yourself a couple
Oh,
times.
absolutely.
And I and my business partner were going out on shoots.
Just the two
$10,000
of
was
you.
a two-man job.
Yeah.
We'd go out for the shoot day, and then he and I would do the post, and we'd be done.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that was telling. That was very telling.
Yeah. And it really never rose up from that. And I think then, at that point, I was pretty slow, you know, all through 2009, 2010, slight improvement. But that 2010, 11, 12, that area, very, very soft.
It was a confusing time.
Yeah, yeah.
No one knew what to do.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember, and I think it was around that time, Apple stopped supporting Final Cut 7.
Yes.
And that was a big thing in the editing side, going back to editing.
Absolutely.
And so we were all like, well, what now?
Yeah.
Why are, they've given up on that side of the business.
Yeah.
Little did we know, they were actually way ahead of the game. They saw what was coming, and we didn't.
Yeah, and they
per se.
got it better than we did. Yeah.
But again, people evolved and either did other stuff or got out of the business.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so many people got out. Yeah.
So many got out. So many got out. And really, there were people that were hanging in there that should have got out.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's kind of like when you're in a career.
Oh,
what else do you do?
We could be a couple mortgage guys talking about the mortgage heyday.
Oh,
I mean,
no, absolutely. We'd be
that
the
time's
same,
not going to
same,
happen again in
yeah.
our lifetime.
No.
And now it's the new era. And,
Yes.
And what do you do, and how do you redefine yourself?
Yeah.
And
well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So I know, and just to give everybody just a little brief history between Kris and myself, we moved in down at the Buddy Group together in, what was 2016?
Yep.
Was it
15, 16? Yeah.
No, 15, I had the heart operation, so I remember that.
Yeah.
But the 16, we moved in there, I think, January 1st, we were there, and we were putting together ideas, just a little collaborative, about doing a production company and how we get bigger. We pulled Bill Wiles into that a little bit for being a partner and some consultation and stuff. And we really bared down. That was a lot of fun. While I don't think our project went anywhere large, you know what I mean? We did get a couple jobs out of it. But we had a lot of conversations about what makes it work and where is it going. So that is my, my biggest interest right now and where it's going. I have my opinions, but let me hear from you. What is your look out there? Say, let's go 5, 10 years out. What are you thinking?
Future from here?
Yeah.
Well, first, when you and I collaborated, the thing that you and I did that I loved is we took action.
Yes.
We didn't talk and think about what we were going to do.
Yes.
Very long.
Yeah.
We talked about it, and then we took action.
Correct.
And in doing so, you got to hold for that? Make an edit?
No.
Now you do now.
Yeah, that's the garbage truck outside. We're going to live with that, Kris. It doesn't
Burnie
matter.
Studios,
Chris,
hold on.
It doesn't matter.
You're right. It doesn't
matter. It doesn't matter.
So going back to when you and I took action, it was a great incubator.
Yes.
I mean, we
Yes.
created a startup.
Yes.
With some ideas of how can we do something different? What are people not doing? What are the services that are needed?
Right.
And you were starting to build what is now on-stage lighting. You were doing your education series. We were helping build that. It was a very exciting time because there was so many opportunities, and we had the time.
Yes.
We had the time,
Yes.
and we were still making money. And just by being together, we created a new business that we weren't even doing.
There was a great amount of synergy once we got physically together, which was a lesson that I learned too, is it's not always remote. There's big things that happen when you're in physical proximity of each other.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And you can go around the corner and say something to the door. It's not a phone call. It's not a text. It's something actually actionable or information that comes in. You know what I mean? Because you could have an answer or I could have an answer for it real fast.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Where otherwise it would have taken you a little while to do.
So, but you asked me about the future, 5 years from now.
Well, and let's be a little more broad than that. Let's just say future. Let's give it in the next 5 years. What do you see the trends are right now? Let me give you an example. We're obviously sitting in here in a studio live streaming, which was not even a conversation when we were together in that 2016 year.
Right.
So it's 2017 now, it's September or October, and we are actually doing it. I've been doing this for about 9 months now.
Yep.
But this wasn't even on the radar a year before that.
But that's part of evolution, Burnie. I mean, you've got your brand, your name, and you are steadfast as a grip and lighting magnet of Orange County.
Right.
But you've invested in cameras and a studio, and not only are you creating media, you're creating buzz, and you always have been, though. I mean, you're the king of Facebook, and everybody knows it.
I don't know. So I don't know if I want to be the king of Facebook. Ho 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 ho! I dislike you. Ah, I'm angry. Ah.
Yeah, you don't want to upset Burnie on social media.
Oh, look out! Ah, watch it.
But I think the future, looking at it, is that what's really interesting right now is how streaming, live streaming, television channel streaming, that is changing the outlook of television.
Yes.
I mean, these companies are buying other companies that are experts in these fields. I mean, Vimeo just recently bought Livestream, and now offers live stream
and now
as a service.
live streaming on Vimeo.
Yeah, and they're going to do away with the name, and Vimeo's going to have the product now. Wow. Because that's where it's going.
Yeah. So it really is another huge step.
Yeah.
In media democratization.
Yep.
Because it does put it once again in the hands of someone like me. Even though I'm in the industry and all that, I am not a producer. I'm not a tech. I'm a lighting guy. You know. But even this is within my hands. And I will say this: not just to produce content, but to produce content with some level of production value. You know, like this isn't top of the line by any means, but it's got a higher production value than just putting out my phone on vertical and holding it up to myself. You know what I mean? So, you know, this type of thing can really, this is the beginning step. So that's what you're seeing. You're seeing streaming, and give me some other examples or just thoughts about things. And Vic, let me ask you about this. Not that I expect you to have the answer. How does something like this get monetized for an individual? What is that model like?
Well, if you go to my website and you click $9.99, no, I'm just kidding. Monetization is a very good question.
Yeah.
You had said something before that I wanted to touch on, but let's talk about monetization. Streaming media monetization. Personally, right now, I don't think individual monetization of individual videos is there yet. I think unless it's something like a pay-per-view fight that you absolutely want to watch, or a media, that, you know, at $100 a person, you'll pay for that.
The unique event.
Yes, the unique event. Right now, I think that streaming events is much better, open to the public, and you get a sponsor.
Yeah.
I remember 5-6 years ago when I was doing something for Jack FM. They had their concert down here, the former Irvine Meadows, and they had Xbox was the sponsor. So we did the webcast and had multiple cameras on the pre-stage, and they would do bumpers with the radio host. I worked on it; it wasn't my job, but they had bumpers that had the Xbox commercial, and Xbox paid like, you know, $20 grand to sponsor it, and that made sense because they got the brand impressions of everybody watching it.
Right.
So on a music concert exhibition level, that seems to be a way to monetize.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about individual monetization, I think your model of having an education series, on-set lighting, and having premium content, you got to get your community that wants that content, that goes there and is hungry for it, and produce it that way.
Right. And have something that there's a coordinated interest in, some sponsor that can benefit from those eyeballs, which in our world is kind of unique, you know, in the sense that maybe not unique, maybe there's probably other industries that are modeled the same way. In other words, it's not what we do in production is not a big market, even worldwide. You know what I mean? It's 10, 15, maybe 20 million people participate in that. Maybe it's a little more than that, but not much. But that's out of 7 billion.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like a food market or a wine market or something that's going to have a lot of consumers. But here's the other side of it. For the people that service that market, it's harder for them to find the direct eyeballs, which a show like this would produce. In other words, you've got to be pretty interested in production to sit here and listen to us and talk about that and understand what we're talking about.
Right.
Too. Because if you were just from somewhere else, I think it'd be a little bit, you know, it's not direct enough of a value to you.
Right.
You know. So I think in monetization of something like this, then it comes in, but we're back down to dollars again. What is that worth to an individual advertiser?
Right.
Right? It's probably something in the game, but it's not. You know, it's just like a street sign or something, or you know, a message board on the freeway or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just that flash. Okay, they're here. That's right. I'm reminded of them again.
Well, I think one of the shifts that's happened now in the landscape is, okay, now you've got production, and production is where it's at now. The difference now is that the marketing side of everything.
Yeah.
So now a marketing person needs to know how to do Photoshop. They need to know how to do video editing. They need to know how to do websites. They need to know how to create a funnel. They need to know how to create a credit card pay service. And that's why all these tools are emerging. So even the ad agency world has changed, where it's a one-man band again that can do all these services and rapidly. And so it's taking that and bundling it together and figuring out how to make value out of your brand.
Out of this. And they've got to work with dollars like this.
Yep.
That's really what's out there. It's dollars like this. Yep. Yeah. So, you know what? We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to just go back. We'll come back, and I want to hear about what you're doing and who you're working with right now.
Sounds good.
All right.
Burnie's workshop is fantastic. Burnie's workshop is awesome. Burnie's workshop is insightful.
Burnie, in one word, passionate maybe. You can tell he really cares a lot.
Burnie is a badass.
He's a great teacher. He has great stories, and I would recommend this to anyone. Not only someone like me who's starting day one, but you know, I feel that in any profession, as you sharpen your sword, it always gets sharper.
I think the best thing about this is the access to understanding how to run your business, how to actually be in this filmmaking industry and make money at it. Coming to this workshop, I think, is what actually gets you the tools to understand how to do that, how to get out there and sell yourself.
I thought that was really cool. I thought, he knows all the tricks in the book, and he knows how to show that to us and actually demonstrate it so we actually know what he's talking about.
I really like the hands-on experience. That's something that you don't find a lot. That's something you have to go on set a lot to just appreciate.
I know this is lighting seminar, but it's not only talk about lighting. He also share his business experience, personal experience, and guide us to what we should do, what kind of personality we should have in this business.
His stories, I think that kind of say everything, all in a few example stories that he gives out from time to time.
I would recommend this workshop to anybody who's just spread into the industry, people who just don't know the swing of it. A lot of this stuff they don't teach you in film school.
I deal with a lot of freelancers every day, a lot of peers that I went to school with, a lot of professionals in the field, and they all need to take this class because it puts you on the next level, on the next playing field.
Burnie's a great guy. Burnie's really authentic. Like everything he learns, everything he teaches, the way he handles himself, the way he deals with other people, he's a one-of-a-kind guy. Someone I've never come across before in the industry, and someone I hope to emulate and hope that there are more people like him out there that can help.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Back here with Mr. Kris Hritz, and we are talking about media, past, present, and future. And one thing I want to know, because obviously I know it, but I want everybody to hear about it. What are you doing now? What are you doing now?
Well, you know, part of that evolution and changing is shedding the past. And that trash truck that we heard go by reminded me of when you said a transition point was we were on our third office and tape had ended. So we rented, and we were leaving that office to downsize. And we had rented one of those huge dumpsters. And we threw away hundreds of DVC Pro cassettes, Beta SPs, remember those? And
sure.
Furniture, monitors, and just shed it all. And I think that part of that evolution is shedding what was and moving to what is now. And part of that for me was realizing there was more beyond just being a production company.
Yeah.
And my business partner and I we were two of us. We were able to sustain ourselves mostly, but I needed to go on and figure out what my next evolution was. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, I had a friend from college that was a good friend of mine who had worked for the production company that worked for Red Bull and Red Bull Extreme Sports, and had been doing a lot of their satellite stuff, a lot of their live events. And they had built a streaming center up in Santa Monica. And he said, hey, why don't you come up and help work on this with us? Mm-hmm. And because I had a long history of all my directing, producing, and then the technical side is what they really wanted, which was, hey, we're doing streaming to individual devices. We've built this. It looks like a NAS control room. It's got lots of monitors, an equipment room, and I got invited to be part of this team of cutting edge extreme sports. You know, satellite downlinked and encoded and sent out to all the devices.
Wow.
On a app.
Wow. And you work them freelance or,
Yep.
or yeah. Okay, that's
So
awesome.
I work up there, and like any corporation or business you work for, production within a corporation is always interesting.
Yeah.
And this is Red Bull Media House, so
Yeah.
that they specialize. They've got on-staff producers.
And is Red Bull Media House a separate entity from Red Bull? I know it owns the media house, but is it run as a completely separate?
Yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes. And Media House is actually, they're based in Austria, and then I think there's a London, an Austria, and North America, which is us, US.
Okay.
But they handle everything from, the Media House handles sponsorships, it handles events, it has directors, they make original programming, they make feature-length films.
It's a network.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. It's
yeah.
a network.
No, it's great that you touched on that because they're close to rebranding themselves as Red Bull Media Network.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because, and you touched on that perfectly. So it's super exciting. It's cutting edge, the highest end gear. It's streaming on a high level.
Yeah.
And I'm part of a team. So
I know you wanted to touch on
Yeah.
that, but I wanted to know, what's it like going from a Lone Ranger to being part of the Cavalry?
That's a great question. I've spent my whole life being freelance.
Yeah.
And so I was able to take everything I learned from working with my corporate clients and how to teach and how to work with them to how to interject myself into this team and
so
work
now
with
it's like, what would my corporate clients do? In this
well, how would
situation?
you act? How would you
Yeah.
say to your corporate client? What
Yeah.
would you do?
Yeah.
Instead of grabbing that camera and running over there and doing that.
Right.
That's a good skill to have when you need it.
When you need it. But you want to work as a team.
Yep.
You're a team member and you want to get the approval of the team. Yeah.
But for me, it was taking my entire, this was the next evolution for me because it was taking my entire knowledge of production, front-end production, cameras, lighting, all that to set through satellite because I'd done some satellite jobs, and all my post-production skills, knowing how to change a video, add graphics and all that, and putting it in a direct pipeline. Even people that came from television were, again, a little off because it's different. It's not isolated, there's a TD operator, there's a A1, we do on larger stuff, but a lot of times it's a single box that's doing the video playback, the streams coming into there, you're adding the graphics, much like you're doing for the show.
So you're adding the graphics back at your place in Santa Monica and doing all that. They're just giving you the raw stream from
it depends,
the
but
field.
that's one of the
for
ways
most
we do
of
it.
the times you do it that way.
And where the next evolution, this is really exciting, and I saw this last year coming to the forefront, is where you no longer send a 40-foot truck to edit an event. You send a satellite truck and camera guys, they mux the video signals together, set it up on the bird, you bring it back down, and then you cut the show in a studio somewhere else.
Wow.
Yeah, away from the location.
Do you cut it live?
Yeah, you cut it live.
Cut it live.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Away from the location.
Yeah, they have fiber connections so that you have to have connectivity, or you can do connection through the satellite.
Right.
But then all the camera guys have comms. Yeah. Comms are tied in back to the studio. So now you can sustain a production studio with a director, a producer, a sound guy, a graphics, and all that. The studio doesn't move. The content comes to the studio.
Wow.
You mix it live, and then you put it out on the air.
And you've saved all that money on the 40-foot truck and all that.
I forget who it was, ESPN or CNN. Somebody did away with their satellite trucks. They're now doing it. They're doing it via fiber.
Wow.
They sub-rent a satellite truck and they send their little package out, and they can do up to like 10 camera shoots that way.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Well, we just got a new JVC system here that we're going to go out in the field with, which is not comparing the two, understand, but
the methodology is the same.
It is. It is, and it's so compact now. It's amazing. It's an amazing what we can do. So in Red Bull, what is their, and you may or may not be able to speak to this, what is their goal? What is Red Bull Media's goal? Is it to sell more Red Bull?
Well, obviously.
Because obviously it is, of course. But it seems like there's easier ways to sell Red Bull than creating a media network.
Well, I like to say, and this is me talking,
I
like to say Red Bull is the sticker on the helmet. I mean, everybody can see that helmet and identify with that, and you go, oh, extreme sports.
Yeah.
And a beverage that helps you do extreme sports.
Right.
But what I can tell you is the evolution that I've seen being there.
Okay, I'd like to hear that.
Which was, they were already going out and doing multiple camera shoots on these events, and then creating videos of these events post facto.
Yeah.
And then they realized, well, if we've got this infrastructure all there, why aren't we streaming this? Why aren't we making it live? And so that was the next evolution. Okay, well then how do we get it live? Well, we'll just satellite it back to a control room, and then we can encode it.
Yeah.
And before they even had a control room, they used a third-party provider, iStream Planet, out in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And they would satellite it up, satellite it down, it encode, and they would put it on devices. And it seemed like a no-brainer. It was like, here, watch it live. We got all the camera and all the gear
got it
anyway.
all there anyway.
Which then rolled into, wow, this is, people like this content. And then let's create a channel and let's offer that channel up. And that's right at the precipice of when I came on board.
Okay.
They were months away from launching the channel, Red Bull
And this
TV.
was around early 2016, am I correct?
Yes.
Somewhere in there? Yep. Okay, so still very new.
Yeah.
In that part of their evolution. Yeah.
And can I tell you, in the year plus that I've been there, I've seen it change and evolve almost 3 times.
Really? Let's hear about that.
It was a brave new platform, and the idea was, oh, we're going to put all this beautiful content, everybody's going to come rushing to us.
Right.
Well, it didn't quite happen that way. They had great eyeballs and they had great viewership, but you got to start to realize you're dealing with individual consumers that want to see what they want to see.
Yeah.
So in that time, we've now added in the social simulcast. So we're putting it on Facebook now, on our Facebook channel. We're putting it on our YouTube channel. We're realizing that you kind of want to go to where your community is.
And isn't that almost mandatory now?
Yeah.
I think the same way. You've got to go where the eyeballs are and actually program your show for what people are doing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? For example, I think going live to Facebook is a much different proposition than going live to YouTube.
Yep.
Facebook is your natural inclination is to stay on something for 15 seconds and then move on.
Absolutely. That's how Facebook works.
So when you're doing, and this is a good example, doing an hour show on there, I don't have an expectation of people, some do, of course, but I think people will sample this like a box of chocolates, if you will. They'll come and pick a piece out, they'll remember it, they'll go back, they may look at another piece and listen and learn something like that. You don't have to have them there for an hour to make it successful.
No. No, you get brand impression in 3 to 4 seconds.
Yeah. And conversely, YouTube is a different thing. That is more of a watch it channel. You know what I mean? That is more of a long time. I think Vimeo will be too. Vimeo may even have a higher standard of audience on it.
Right. As it always has claimed to have.
Yes.
And then Twitch is a major advent. The
Twitch,
gaming
who
channel.
I'm not familiar with. Give me some background on Twitch.
Twitch is an amazing community of online gamers that will, like my kids, watch gaming for hours on end.
Yeah.
Live gaming, somebody gaming. And so the highest viewership is on Twitch because they're used to sitting there and watching in front of their computer or their tablet, mostly in front of their computer because they're gaming at the time. So we at Red Bull have now started working with Twitch. Twitch is hungry for content other than gaming.
Sure.
So now we're taking our extreme sports and putting it on Twitch. And like you just said, you dictated the exact viewership time that has been seen at the high-end level.
Oh, really? Okay.
Facebook for a few seconds. YouTube a little bit longer, and now Twitch the longest.
Twitch is
and
longest.
because
they're used to watching Twitch longer.
Oh yeah, for hours.
Yeah.
So long content is not a problem there.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is the chat side. That is the interactive community, and we've got people that watch the community and interact and chat and block people that are saying things that we don't want to be said there. To make it a better environment for everybody that's watching.
Absolutely.
But that is where the interaction is. That's where people are voicing and reading.
And that's what keeps them there too.
Yeah.
When they're back and forth.
They're watching the content on their side of their eye, and they're interacting with the chat.
Right. Interesting.
That's huge.
That is interesting. Yeah. So, and tell me a little bit about this. You said, obviously Twitch wanted more programming than just gaming.
Yeah.
Which is the exact model that every cable channel followed. You know what I mean? When you were on the Animal Planet, that was all great, but now it's the AP Planet.
Yep.
Because they don't want it all about animals.
Exactly.
They want eyeballs. All the eyeballs out there, they want to talk to them in some way. So how is this working? What is your forecast, or what do you see in the future from that? Because I can imagine, and maybe this is a fantasy on my part because I've got this show, but having a competitive venue of Facebook wants this, and so does YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to give you the best platform for your first show? Because you can probably see it anywhere after that. But who gets the first show? Who gets the first run? You know what I mean? I'm wondering about that. You don't have to have an answer for this.
No, I'm trying to understand your question a little
well, yeah, everybody does that when I talk. But like, you've got things right now. Everybody is just out there with everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? When does the cream start to rise to the top? Like, Facebook looks, this is an independently produced show that's on Facebook. We want to have first eyeballs on that.
Yeah.
We don't want it to be on YouTube or Twitch or anywhere else.
Well, this is the precipice of the change that we were talking about.
Yeah.
I think that the platform that that's going to be predominant is not even there yet. I don't even think it exists. I think there will be a platform that's going to revolutionize and change the Facebook, the YouTube, and the Twitch platform.
Okay.
That's my prediction. I mean, that's just looking forward.
Right.
Because that's how fast things are evolving. I mean, remember, PayPal was the way to pay.
Right.
Now people use Venmo.
Yeah.
You know, and
I've Square.
asked, yeah, they're PayPal. What? No, I'll Venmo you. I'll Venmo you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. We just go that direction.
Yeah.
We just go that direction. Life. You always say life is imitating art, art imitating life in the industry. You know, Costco tells us when the seasons are and what we're going to buy. Target tells us what our fashion is going to be.
Yeah.
There's going to be a platform that's going to tell us where we find our television. Oh. And I think that's the great race right now.
Very interesting.
That's the race, is to figure out what is the platform and where is people going to go. Are they going to pay for Hulu? Is it Netflix? Do they have the right solution?
Yeah.
You know, as a consumer, I love Netflix. I am absolutely intrigued with how much. I remember, and this was 6 months ago. I was like, look how much content is on here that's all original.
Yeah.
That I'm interested in, and that is the hard part. You know, but they spent millions, billions of dollars to do that.
Right. Right.
So again, there's the middle class is gone. Either you shoot yourself with your phone and put it on YouTube, and you sell your makeup and you've got your followers, or you're a corporation and you're trying to figure out how to monetize that.
And even a corporation, just by them getting their message out, it's monetized immediately.
Right.
You know, by their mere presence.
Yep.
You know, but that's a very interesting thing. So you think the overall kind of solution to that is going to be it's not even here yet.
That's what I think.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Well, and talking about monetization, and I think we're stepping outside of our industry, which is actually intuitive of what really is happening. Our industry is everyone now. Everyone has a 5D. Everyone has a Mac laptop.
Oh, yeah.
So there is no our industry.
Yeah.
We're just people that can create content. There's people better at us, and there's people really good at it.
Yeah.
And those are the differences. But what I wanted to talk about was Instagram. Instagram is obviously one of the, and I don't. You're on Instagram, right?
Sure.
Using it through Facebook.
It's not my strongest social suit, though. I'll have to say.
Which it goes back to. Remember when we were talking about the internet? No one wants to read. I've been saying that for probably about 10 years now.
Yeah.
No one wants to read the internet. They just want to look at pictures.
Yeah.
That's why Instagram is up there as one of the top apps.
Yeah.
They're on the edge of shopping through Instagram. So you would take a picture of Kino lights, have it on there, and have a click button for people to buy.
Yeah.
So somebody sees your setup for this interview and goes, well, that's really cool. I really could use those lights. Click, click, purchase.
Yeah.
That's how fast it's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to monetize.
Yeah.
You're going to be selling products with our medium.
Well, that has been the dream for a long time.
It's going to be it's the new Wild West of infomercials.
There you go. Kris, hey, buddy, we're almost out of time here. Tell everybody, how do they get a hold of you?
You know what? You can just reach me on my email, kkHritz@gmail.com. And shoot me up with some questions. And I love to meet people and talk to people.
Yep, he does. He'll talk your leg off, I can assure you.
Well, when he stops talking.
Thank you so
Bernie.
much, buddy. This
Pleasure
is
to be here.
great. Yeah. And we'll see you, yes, next week on Burnie's Applebox. Cut. That's a wrap.